All right. So let's. Since I did a live stream where I watched the show, and I'm wearing my Dead Dead's hat because I try to do that. I try to promote them as much as I can. Favorite band and all. They're up there. And I'm wearing still my Mr. Meeseeks jersey. Let's take a look at the exceedingly long Royal Rumble. Now, we can all agree that NXT Takeover is fantastic. And you look at the Phoenix event last night, part of what makes it fantastic is that it's 5 matches long and it takes about 2.5 hours. When you think about it, that's about a half an hour per match. Now you have some in between stuff, some setups and whatnot, but in general, each match was about 20 minutes and they were pretty excellent. The only one that was a little bit lacking was the Shayna Baszler title defense, but other than that, it was all pretty great. Even the Cassius Ono Matt Riddle match was pretty fantastic. In that, as soon as Riddle hit the ring, I said, "Step on his feet." Why is the guy wrestling barefoot against a guy with wrestling boots? It's stupid. I don't care what his background is. I don't care why he's doing it. It's dumb. Anytime a guy wrestles barefoot, it's my first thought is, yeah, you should probably step on those feet. And I was very proud of Ono for not just stepping on his foot, but chomping down on his toes. That was honestly really, really funny. Almost as funny as the fact that Mauro Ranallo was going to say toe fetish and caught himself and didn't. So the announcing is great. The matches are great. We can agree on that. Let's get into the long. And I'm reading the results off Lords of Pain here because I didn't write everything down. I wasn't even sure if I was going to do the live stream tonight. And I thought, yeah, sure. And what irks me too is normally I do a bunch of hockey videos during the day. I did two this morning, and then I thought, oh, I'll watch the Rumble. I'll take a break. This wore me out. Really, really wore me out. So I've got boards ready for my hockey channel for tomorrow. But this event just wore me down. It was so long, and it didn't make a lot of sense. So at the start of the event, it was supposed to be Authors of Pain versus Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. Well, Akam of of the Authors of Pain was injured, so instead it's Razor and Scott Dawson. Sure, why not just make it the Revival? That have been great? And why not put it on the pre-show? See, Chad Gable and Bobby Roode defending the tag titles on the pre-show tells me the tag titles don't mean anything. And then it was Razor and Scott Dawson. It didn't even make any sense. It was if they won the match, this put together team, then they would win title shots for both tag teams at a later date. Well, which one gets the title shot first? Right? So that was my first thought, and I thought this just can't win, and then it didn't. Gable and Rude won, and they stood tall and so. And the thing is, they showed them with the titles, and the arena's still half empty, which was weird. Then they go back to JBL and Charlie Caruso, and might I say that Charlie Caruso can make any outfit look good. That I'm not sure what dress she was wearing, but yeah, she can make anything look good. And then they had Shawn Michaels in there for the second hour, which led to a lot of HBK chants and probably led to some more speculation that maybe HBK would get involved tonight in some fashion, and he didn't. Then you have the U.S. title match versus with Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev. Shinsuke would show up again later on for the Rumble, which made me say, okay, Rusev's going to be in the Rumble, and then he wasn't, which didn't make any sense. I don't get it. Because here's the thing, the guys that are on the pre-show normally don't get the same amount of pay as the guys who are on the main card. So Shinsuke gets the main card pay, Rusev doesn't. And Rusev loses to Shinsuke in a match which, again, shows Lana getting knocked off the apron. So yeah, that didn't make me happy either. I'm like, oh great. And then Lana was like, oh, she rolled her ankle. Nah, she didn't. And they kept showing it on replay, and I'm like, she didn't even land awkward. She didn't. There's nothing. I can't suspend disbelief. And then they kept saying Lana will be out for the Royal Rumble later, and I'm like, they're whatever. So then they go backstage to Nikki Cross, whose backstage segment was just Nikki Cross is this wonderful, delightful creature that I think they're gonna blow it. I do. I think because her gimmick is that she's crazy and over the top, I think she'll end up getting the Santino Morella Great Khali treatment, where eventually she's just comic relief, and I hate it. I hate it because having a crazy over the top champ can work. You look at Dean Ambrose now; they kind of blew that too. They don't do well when it comes to those over the top gimmicks. They end up just treating them like they're a big comedy thing, and it's too bad because Nikki is just fantastic. Um, you want to talk about a woman who looks like she could go against the men as well. Nikki's got the build for it. She's fantastic. Then they had the Fatal 4-Way for the Cruiserweight title again on the pre-show. It's a shame because it was a great match and nobody knows about it. Buddy Murphy wins to keep the title. Buddy Murphy is the greatest thing going on that's not on the main roster. Even though 205 Live counts as the main roster, I don't count it as the main roster because it's a different show and people don't pay much attention to what's going on, which has just meant a lot of guys just get wasted. And they did the Drew McIntyre, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to come right out and say it. I think Drew McIntyre's push is done. I think he's in the process of being slowly pushed back down. And I think if they were going to hotshot the belt onto him, they would have done it already. And I'm just going ahead and saying it. So, but we've got to leave it on Brock because it's got to stay on Brock. And it's too bad because again, the talent's there. So that match being done and that bit being done, we go to the main show. Yay! It's finally Royal Rumble time, and we've only been watching TV for 2 hours. Becky Lynch and Asuka open up the show. Now, I don't have a problem with Becky Lynch opening up the show with Asuka because your first match of the night should be one that really gets people's interest. It should be a great match. Being the first match of the night is not an insult. And it used to be referred to as an insult. It no longer is. It sets the stage for the rest of the event. And this match was fantastic. The back and forth was amazing. Some really solid shots by both of them. They worked pretty stiff. And Asuka wins the match. Becky taps out. Becky's very upset. She's tapped out. She's lost. And I called it at the time. You can go back and check my Twitter feed if you don't believe me. And you'll see that, yes, I said, Becky lost the match. She's going to win the Women's Rumble. To me, it was really obvious what they were doing. And we'll get into that when we get to the Women's Rumble because it's an old standby they've used before. Okay, and we'll get to it. I think of Bret Hart and Owen Hart as being a good example of that. All right. SmackDown Tag Titles match, Shane McMahon and The Miz versus The Bar. And at the start of this, I'm like, okay, so The Bar are going to maintain their title reign, and Shane and Miz will lose, and one of them will turn against the other, and we'll get a fight between the two of them at Mania. No. Shane McMahon, who's... I think Shane's older than I am. And he's in better shape than I am. I'm not going to disagree with that, but he gets winded quickly. He is not a professional wrestler. He, in a one-on-one match against either Sheamus or Cesaro, should lose. And yet, Shane McMahon and The Miz win the tag titles. And I don't get it. I don't. Sheamus, I've talked about before, as kind of being he's tricky. As a main eventer, he doesn't draw very well, but he's a very good worker. Seems like an excellent guy outside the ring, and his skill level is pretty damn high. Cesaro, I've been high on Cesaro from the beginning. I think the guy should have been in the main event years ago. I think that the aversion to foreigners being in the main event picture is the only reason he wasn't there, or whatever reason, or they don't think he can talk, or they don't think he can draw, whatever the reason is. Seeing Cesaro and Sheamus lose like this is frustrating, unless we're going to get a match between Sheamus and Cesaro at Mania, which would be a shame because as a tag team, they've been amazing for a very long time now. And it would be a shame if we saw them stop tagging together. Then we get the women's title match for Raw, Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey. And it's your standard. I will say this, Ronda Rousey, while she wins just as often as Brock Lesnar, she's at least on every Raw. The tag team she was a part of last week lost. Her and Natty lost. And she makes her opponents look pretty damn solid. Sasha Banks, this was the best match Sasha Banks has had in a long time. It's the first time they've given her a chance to take the ball and run with it. And I think tonight she showed she can still do it. I know she gets called Sasha Botch. And yeah, it's whatever. Guys botch a lot too. I know in almost any given match I'll see guys do a spot and I'll be like, oh, they have to redo that. And then they set it up and they have to redo the spot. Or you'll see a guy, who's in the middle of the ring. Oh, I'm dead. And the guy climbs the ropes and he looks up and goes... And he pulls his way over to the corner so the guy can hit a move. And it's like, Really? You're making it that obvious? So I think women get criticized more for screwing up in wrestling matches than guys do. I think that it's a bigger thing, and I think with the high risk maneuvers Sasha does, when they miss, they look ugly. I think that's what it is. But she wrestled a great match tonight, and they did very well, the two of them. Ronda wins the match with her Piper's Pit finisher. And, Sasha's seen crying and then smiling and then whatever she does the four horsemen thing to Ronda. The four horsemen thing only works if all four women are on the same side, and Charlotte and Becky aren't showing any hints of being on the same side, so it doesn't really matter. And Shayna Baszler didn't show up tonight. I was expecting some kind of interaction where Baszler and the other two members of the four horsewomen from MMA would come in, and you'd see some kind of an interaction between those eight. This is the Royal Rumble. This is one of your big shows. That would have been huge if they'd done it, and they didn't. Then the 30-woman Royal Rumble match. Lacey Evans stole the show from me. I thought she was fantastic. If I have to hear Corey Graves talk further about Mandy Rose, and he really makes it sound like his greatest desire on planet Earth is to sleep with her. And then in the same match, he talked about his daughter, and I thought, Corey, you've really got to let this go. You've got to drop this. The day of the Jerry Lawler puppies, which is how it comes across to me. It's not as obvious, but it's still there. I don't think it works. And then he did it with Alexa Bliss too, and it was just like, oh, come on, Corey, just stop. They're beautiful women. They're absolutely beautiful women. Mandy, Mandy Rose is one of the most beautiful women WWE's ever had. Yes, absolutely. But I really wish that you wouldn't have an announcer at the desk talking about just her appearance all the time, because, and I mentioned this during the live stream, if Renee Young, every time one of the good-looking male wrestlers came out, just gushed over his appearance constantly, we would be hearing a lot of talk about Renee's got to go, that's not professional. So it kind of has to be both ways, where these women are good looking, we can see that. You don't need to constantly prop up just how much you like blondes, which is Alexa and Mandy, and it's awkward. Like I said, he's my daughter. I'm thinking, really? It's just weird. I thought one of the highlights of the women's event was the Iconics. They're not going to win it, so the little bit they do I thought was entertaining. I think that Peyton and Billy are basically jobbers for the women's division. Peyton, I think, is the more promising of the two. In the ring, Billy's the better talker. So the two of them together, it works very, very well. I would like to see them get somewhere. I'd like to see when they do bring in women's tag belts, I'd like to see them have a bit of a run there. Have them feud a bit, maybe with Sasha and Bayley, who they clearly are setting up to have a run with the tag belts. I think there could be tremendous fun with that. And of course, when Nikki Cross came in, that was just, she was fantastic. She was a ton of fun. And then Tamina Snuka, she does her bit, and she's not going to make it either. Who else do I want to touch on? Liv getting thrown out immediately was fun. I thought that Xia Li was not a whole lot happened there. The crowd didn't seem to care. If you're going to bring in somebody from NXT or from the Mae Young Classic, make sure the fans are going to care, because you don't want to waste that debut and have the crowd just not care. Kairi Sane came out, the crowd went nuts. Io Shirai came out at one point, that seemed to be good. Maria Kanellis came out. I have to say Maria's outfit was different. Just different. And Maria, at least they let her be in the ring for more than 5 seconds. I thought she was going to get 5 seconds to get thrown out. So Maria got time, and her husband didn't get to be in the men's version. So, of course, there are more male wrestlers than female, but still. I do think there's something to the idea that Mike Kanellis, or Mike Bennett, as he was known every other wrestling company before they gave him his wife's name, I do think they're on their way out of the company. I think it's just a matter of when. Of course, Naomi came out, nothing happened there. Of course, her and Mandy have to continue their feud. Great. because I want to see more stupid segments and whatever with them. That's great. Alicia Fox came out and they had some silly thing with her hat and Maria. Nobody cared. Casey Catanzaro came out and the crowd seemed to like her a lot. She did a fun thing where she walked on her hands, which meant that when Kofi does it later, doesn't matter because Casey did it better. Dana Brooke came out. The highlight for Dana was the fact that she eliminated um, Rhea Ripley, which was surprising, and no Tony Storm, which surprised me. I had expected, because Tony Storm was at NXT Takeover, so I'd expected Tony Storm to be a surprise enter tonight. Not there. Pete Dunne was in there from NXT UK for the men's side, but no Tony Storm because Alicia Fox. And I get it, Alicia Fox has been in the company for over 10 years. You want her to get the payday for the big pay-per-view, but I was surprised. Especially with Candice LeRae coming out. Of course, Candice LeRae coming out. They mentioned she's Johnny Gargano's wife, and I'm like, they just ruined Johnny Gargano as one of the surprise entrants for the Rumble. Why are they doing that? Candice LeRae can wrestle, and she's decent, but like I said, you could have put Tony Storm into that spot and kept Gargano as a big secret. But they didn't. And then Zelina Vega hides under the ring, and this is where it gets stupid. So the women's evolution and women are being taken seriously. We're not. Women aren't being objectified anymore unless you listen to Corey Graves or you watch any of the segments with Alexa Bliss or Mandy Rose where she's wearing a towel. But we're not objectifying women anymore unless we think it'll help the ratings. Zelina Vega's under the ring and Hornswoggle under there with her. Why? And then he chases her in the ring and she gets eliminated and then he chases her backstage. What? That didn't make any sense to me. I'm still, as you can see, just bewildered at what the hell. But the men's Rumble, they did some silly bits too, so I guess that's fine. Natalya was in the ring forever. She did some great work before she got eliminated. Of course, Carmella's the last one in. Doesn't matter. We knew Carmella wasn't winning this. And then Lana's coming down to the ring. Of course, she can barely walk. Well, how'd she get dressed if her ankle doesn't work? Did she have her feet in the air? How'd she get all ready for the match? And why would Rusev let her get ready for the match? And why? How did she get to the curtain if she can't, like... Anyways, there's a whole lot of questions going through my head when she's, my ankle. And then Becky comes out and says, well, I'll go. And so Becky goes in. Now, of course, Becky ends up eliminating Nia Jax. Nia Jax injures Becky. And your end result is, surprise, Becky wins the Rumble by eliminating Charlotte. Now, what they did here is something, it's the Stone Cold thing, where you might lose a match earlier in the night. Bret Hart did it with his brother. He loses a match to his brother, and then he wins the title later on that night. You can put somebody over, make them look strong, and then you come out later on in the night and you look like a real warrior because you've already been through a major match and you win. And since she came out limping, that's the Stone Cold treatment, where he's not 100%, he's limping around the ring, he can barely move, and out of nowhere, he wins it. So that was fun to see Becky do that. And, Charlotte's doing the growly thing, which it's on the verge of goofy. But I think the funniest part to me was that her and Kairi Sane were having kind of a chop battle. And Kairi kept chopping her in the boobs. I'm thinking, you're supposed to chop here, not here. But I digress. That's a height difference thing, I guess. So at this point, I'm exhausted. And then they bring out AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. And to be honest, I'm exhausted. I switched channels a few times. And then I came back about 10 minutes later because I'm like, I need a break. And I know this match is going to go more than 10 minutes. So I get back to it, and there was a lot of, attacks on the ground and everything going on. And then out of nowhere comes Eric Rowan. Okay, so you got the Beard crew working on this. Great. All right. So the Beards win. Daniel Bryan gets to win because Eric Rowan interferes. I'll be interested to see whether or not Luke Harper comes in and if they do some kind of a Wyatt family thing with Daniel Bryan. Because remember, they tried that at one point, and it didn't really work. So Daniel Bryan was right out of the Wyatt family right away. Daniel Bryan's an extremely unpopular wrestler right now in terms of storyline. It would totally work now if he went to the Wyatt family, and if you changed what the Wyatt family was about, and you changed their whole crusade. They can have all the same entrants. You can have Daniel Bryan with them. He doesn't have to wear Wyatt family gear. They don't even have to wear their old family gear either. They can just kind of be, hey, we're trying to save the planet, and the crowd will hate them for it. It's so weird how that works, right? We're trying to save the planet. Boo! Screw you! Screw the planet! That's how it sounds to me, and I think it's hilarious. So after that happens, then we get to Finn Balor and Brock Lesnar, and this is where I start getting mad because Finn Balor is an amazing worker, and I understand that Brock Lesnar's a draw, but when they leave the title on him like this, it makes it so difficult to suspend any kind of disbelief. Right from the start of the match, I'm like, well, Balor's not a threat, and they worked out a spot in this where he drives Lesnar's gut into the exposed corner of the table, and I thought it looked effective. It looked good, and it makes it look like he's vulnerable. But at no point did I think he's going to get pinned for 3 or he's going to tap to Finn Balor. So because I knew at no point did it look like Balor was going to beat him, I was just like, all right, I don't know how Brock's going to win this, but he is, and he did it by kind of no selling the finisher from Finn. So Finn does the coup de grace, or coup de grace, as it's supposed to be pronounced. I call it coup de grace. It's like it's coup de grace. Anyways, he does the coup de grace and goes for the pin, and then I think it's the Kimura. Kimura lock gets locked in, and that's the end of the night for Finn Balor, and that's it. And then Brock gets up and throws him around the ring a bunch because he made Brock angry. You wouldn't like Brock when he's angry. Kind of turns green. It didn't work. And then we get to the main Rumble, and Jerry Lawler's on commentary. He should have been in commentary for the women's match. Him and Corey could have drooled together over Mandy and Alexa. Actually, you know what would have worked? Would have been if Jerry Lawler was sitting during the women's Rumble, and Corey was doing his Mandy's most, God's gift to mankind, and Alexa's the goddess. If Jerry Lawler had deadpan with a straight face been able to say, Corey, do you want to settle it down? Because I don't think that's very appropriate. And pull it off. Make it work where he's completely serious. Like, I don't think that kind of talk's appropriate. We should treat these women with a little more respect. Just a modicum of respect. Corey Graves. That would have been amazing. So, but they didn't do it. So that moment can't happen. So they did the Elias and Jeff Jarrett thing, and all I could think was, aren't they on a timer? Like, isn't there a timer where they've come out, okay, you're number 1, you're number 2, 90 seconds from now somebody's coming in? No, there's no timer. I've often wondered if you sat there with a stopwatch if the 90 seconds is accurate. Like, every time if it's accurate, or, because there's times where guys are just like, meander into the ring, and I'm thinking, by the time they get there, it's got to be 90 seconds. Anyways, and then from there, there's not a whole lot of fun stuff. Kurt Angle comes out. He didn't win it. He didn't get that far. Jinder Mahal lasted 3 seconds. Jinder's burial continues. Why did we get him shoved down our throats? I don't understand. Because they are burying him so fast right now. He is getting the Zack Ryder treatment, and Zack Ryder wasn't in this either. But Kurt Hawkins was. And Hawkins lasted longer than Jinder. Let that sink in. He outlasted Jinder. Anyways, and then they did a bit where Kurt Hawkins went under the ring and hid, and I thought, they already did that with Zelina. Now, the only way this works is if Hornswoggle goes under there and chases him out from under the ring and starts chasing him to the back. That might be mildly funny, but no. Of course, these guys are all hitting their finishers on each other, which all looks cool, but you're like, are you trying to throw them over the top rope? Why are you landing a finisher, which just means you're going to be dead weight for you to throw over the top rope? I thought Andrade got a good bump tonight. I thought Pete Dunne looked pretty strong. He came out. Johnny Gargano, of course, comes out, and it would have been so much more exciting if not for Candice LeRae already having been in the Women's Rumble. That's a good payday for them, though. Husband and wife, and they're both in the Rumbles. It's a good payday. Of course, Kofi did his bit, which, again, Kofi's bit where he stands on his hands and only one foot hits the floor would have been so much more impressive if Casey Catanzaro didn't do the same thing in the Women's Rumble. It's like the Men's Rumble would have been more fun if you hadn't just watched the Women's Rumble and seen the same spots being performed. And I ask myself, okay, are the same writers in charge of both Rumbles, or is it two different writing groups? And during the women's Rumble, are the guys who scripted the men's going, oh crap, or vice versa? Are the women's writers watching the men's match and going, oh geez, yeah, we overlapped our spots. We did the same spots in both matches. That I wonder that. Shelton Benjamin came out. It doesn't matter. Cruz came out. It doesn't matter. And that's the sad part, is that these guys come out and you're going, yeah, they're not going to make it. Bobby Lashley lasted 10 seconds. Intercontinental champion, of course, you want to squash him. I don't know why he has a title. Jeff Hardy didn't last a whole long time. Strowman was in there. I get the feeling Strowman's still not 100%. The way they used him tonight, I don't think he's 100%. I think he was in there because he had to be in there. Ziggler came out. He looked pretty solid. But since he eliminated McIntyre, it means McIntyre versus Ziggler at Mania. Orton came out. I'm not sure. You know what's weird? Orton feels to me like he's a veteran now who's just there to be a veteran. He's not there to win a title or do much. Like, he wins his share of matches, but I don't really... maybe it's because he's doing the same shtick he did 15 years ago, but I want something else. Kind of want something else with Orton. And of course, the highlight is that R-Truth gets beat up by Nia Jax. So R-Truth gets the number 30 spot in the Rumble. They pump it up for weeks. And of course, he doesn't make it to the ring. Nia Jax just takes him out and just walks to the ring. Now, again, two different Rumbles, right? So Lana can't walk. Oh, I can't walk. Oh, I can't walk. Becky comes out. Can I go in the ring? And all these officials go, I don't know. What should we do? Are we going to change the match? All right, if we're going to, maybe. And then finally, yes, they've agreed that she'll enter the match. But apparently to enter the men's match, all you have to do is beat somebody up. And then you're in the match. Even though you were in the women's match. Now, do it in reverse. Think about it. Think about it for a second. So, women's Rumble, number 30, Carmella comes out. She's all, here I am. Out comes Braun Strowman, whips her into the barrier a few times. He goes to the ring to potentially win the women's Rumble. Didn't go over very well. I will say this, Nia Jax, if they ever decide, and it felt to me like maybe they were testing the waters of having a woman in the men's division, or at least fighting with other men, Nia can pull that off. She has the size and the strength to pull that off. Now, the two people she eliminated from the match were Mustafa Ali and Rey Mysterio. Both of them are cruisers. So she didn't pick up and slam the big guys, but you get the feeling that she could. She has to have the presence of somebody who could be a threat. So she had that. And in the end, Seth Rollins wins, which we all knew he was going to. They were pumping that up all week. They've been pumping that up for months now that Seth's going to win it and challenge Brock at Mania. Clearly, they've lost faith in Strowman, or Strowman's just not strong enough. Whatever. Hopefully, Rollins wins at Mania. We get a Mania moment. Maybe Strowman screws Lesnar out of the title. I don't know. Whatever they do, I hope they do it quick, because the title should be on Raw every week. It should feel like the champion's a part of the roster and not just a sideshow attraction. That's my problem with it. They talk about how long he's had the title. Well, yeah, he almost never has to defend it compared to other champions. So, yeah, that's kind of the way that works. But I may just be cynical and old at this point, so I'd be interested to know what you guys think. I think tonight's Rumble was meh. It happened. If it was not called the Royal Rumble, this pay-per-view would be given probably a 6.5 out of 10. It was okay. I didn't think there were a lot of surprises. I didn't think there were a lot of storylines that were necessarily furthered or finished. I think that we're into Mania season now, and it's pretty obvious where WrestleMania is going to go, and that's a problem. It shouldn't be that obvious where the Mania matches are going to end up being, or who's going to end up doing what, or which guys from tonight's Rumble are going to end up in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, because writers don't know what to do with them. So there you go. I'm predicting Strowman might end up in there, and he might end up winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal this year. Maybe maybe with a little kid as his sidekick again. The bar can't catch a break. Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. It's not a show I think that will sway anybody to watch if they don't watch it, or sway anybody to stop watching if they already watched it. I think it was just okay. And what I'm looking forward to is Becky coming out on Raw and challenging Ronda Rousey. And of course, Seth's going to challenge Brock Lesnar, which means that Charlotte's going to come over to Raw. Basically, all the women are going to end up on Raw together, and we'll have some kind of a stare down between the four horsewomen of MMA, four horsewomen of WWE, and then you get into the storyline from there. Should be fun. It might not be, but it should be. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you expect a Shayna Baszler? Did you expect a Toni Storm? You didn't get him. Did you expect some kind of a surprise return that wasn't Jeff Jarrett? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.